And welcome to another edition of Moto World. We've got a lot to show you today, including motocross, road racing, World Championship observed trials, and one of your favorites, Moto World's annual visit to the Blackwater. But first, what do the Los Angeles Lakers and Supercross have in common? Well, for starters, they both have Magic Johnsons that make outrageous passes. Second, the season finale for both was in the City of Angels.
The LA round wasn't supposed to be the season finale, but cancellation of two other events gave the Coliseum the honor of hosting the final event and crowning Jeff Ward the series champ.
Feels really good. This is probably the hardest year I've had because of the injuries. And taking a lot of different inventive ideas to get in shape and be prepared for the races I've been racing, and looking forward to healing up and coming out 100%.
With the championship wrapped up, the final race could easily have been a yawner. It provided, however, the best racing of the year. Privateer Guy Cooper from Stillwater, Oklahoma, took the early lead and appeared to be headed for a rout. But at the back of the pack, a victim of a first corner crash, Rick Johnson was on the gas. The defending Supercross champion cut and slashed his way through traffic at an unbelievable pace. By the midway point, Johnson had charged to the rear wheel of Jeff Ward, who was fourth. Ward could only watch as the #1 plate that he would carry in next year's action swept by. Out in front, Cooper knew from the roar of the crowd that a charge was on. He had to be wondering if his lead would hold up. The answer was no. With the crowd behind him and the adrenaline flowing, Johnson, with 2 laps to go, caught the leader. Cooper, like Ward and the rest of the field, was no match for Johnson. He could only watch as the Team Honda rider made the final pass of the Supercross season. For Johnson, win #7 was not just another win. It was a message. Wait until next year.
This week's behind-the-scenes segment profiles one of the most dedicated and talented artists in Supercross. His flair and creativity continues to have a lasting impression on the sport, even though you won't find his name in the rider lineup. You see, this Supercross star does his thing not with a bike, but rather a bulldozer. Steve Saunders has the story.
7 years ago, John Savitsky traded in his motocross bikes and gear to start his own track building company. Today, Stadium Dirt Designs is acknowledged as the top track builder in the sport.
Being a rider, I've had X amount of injuries, and I know what it takes to race out there on the racetrack, where a lot of the other track builders don't have that type of experience. So I think that plays on an important factor on my part.
Most riders agree Savitsky's willingness to listen to their suggestions is an important element of his success.
The one thing John does is he listens to all the riders. You know, I put in a lot of input, so he listens to me, but if any of the other riders come up with a suggestion, he's more than willing to listen. And him and the whole crew from Stadium Dirt Designs, they know their job and they do it well.
To me, he's just one of the top builders in the country. Like I say, I've worked with the other builders, and I just kind of prefer working with John because we work so well together.
I think he knows how to build a racetrack that has passing on it, has some areas that the fans are going to like. They seem to like the riders in the air a lot, and he builds a track that's safe, and that's a main concern today.
Doing the job well involves a tremendous amount of work. For the Tampa Stadium event, 6,000 cubic yards of dirt, about 400 truckloads, was spread over 5,000 double-layered sheets of plywood covering the stadium surface. Work time, over 80 hours from start to completion. Add another 40 hours for track grooming during race day and teardown, and you have a lot of hard work crammed into a short period of time.
It kind of cramps my style because I like to give my guys a little bit of time to sleep, but if we have to go 48, 72 hours around the clock, I have the guys that can do it, and they're not afraid to put the time in. That's why we give out the product that we do as far as Supercross tracks go.
And as far as Supercross tracks go, it looks like John Savitsky and Stadium Dirt Designs will be on top for a long time. Reporting for Moto World, this is Steve Saunders.
Still to come on Moto World, road racing at the 64th Annual Loudon Classic. World Championship Observed Trials comes to America for its only appearance this year. And coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, Blackwater. Keep it tuned to the Nashville Network.
3 seasons ago, the most popular event, according to you, the viewers, has been the Blackwater 100. So, to continue what has become an annual tradition here at Moto World, Mark McKay has the story of this year's Blackwater.
Larry, I tell you, this is my first taste of what Blackwater is all about. I've come away with some mixed feelings. I have respect for the top riders, but I question the sanity of others who merely show up for a healthy dose of bodily abuse. But whether you're one of those masochistic Blackwater veterans or you're the defending race champion Mark Hyde, conquering Blackwater makes it all worth it.
I tell you, last year I won the National Hare Scrambles Championship for the first time. And if I tell people I won that, they say, yeah, that's pretty good. But if I tell them I won the Blackwater, they think I'm the greatest in the world.
For this year's 13th annual running of what's become known as 100 Miles of Mud and Blood, a record number of riders turned out with visions of greatness, or temporary insanity. On race day morning, the starting line stretched from one end of town to the other, 536 clean and dry bodies waiting for a chance to go play in the mud. They didn't have to wait long for the swamps and the bogs. Actually, the bogs were just a warm-up for the real star of Blackwater, the river crossing. Here, everyone wants to get into the act. After over 4 hours of fun, Husqvarna's Mark Hyde still had enough stamina left to loft a wheelie on his way to the checkered flag. Hyde's 4th Blackwater 100 victory puts the Columbus, Ohio rider in the record books as the event's winningest rider and the greatest in the world for another year. Blackwater 87 is history, but before I go, I'd like to issue a challenge to all those detergent companies who claim their products can get out even the most ground in dirt. I'd like to see what they can do with those grimy Blackwater jerseys, Larry.
I am almost certain, Mark, that they won't take you up on that challenge. Thank you. Good report. From slogging through the Blackwater mud, we go to a more sedate form of competition, World Championship Observed Trials. The stars of World Championship Observed Trials have competed in the U.S. since 1975. This year's round, the 7th of 12 in the title chase, brought the magicians on 2 wheels to central Pennsylvania. The challenges of the rock-strewn sections gave spectators plenty of opportunities to witness why these riders are the best in the world. Example, Belgium's Eddie Lejeune. The former 2-time world champion courts disaster with every move as he maneuvers his machine dangerously close to the edge of a steep ledge. Then, with perfect throttle control, the Team Honda rider launches his assault of the rocks in front of him. Eventual winner, Diego Bosis of Italy, combined control and balance with pure power in this section. His charging style was a spectator favorite. Bernie Schreiber, the 1979 world champion, was the top American finisher. Schreiber, the youngest rider to ever win the world title, finished 13th for the day. Another American, Ryan Young, finished 14th. Young, at age 20, is America's fastest rising trial star. He may have had some problems in this section, but his goal for the day was to score world championship points, and that's exactly what he did. In observed trials, even at the world championship level, the cheers of the fans are sometimes a rider's only reward. There was a lot of cheering for everyone in Pennsylvania. Racing championships have hit the midway point in the season with all the pro titles still very much up for grabs. Dennis Torres is here with the story of the latest 2 rounds of the series.
Larry, ever since Wayne Rainey's win at Daytona in March, Team Honda has owned the Superbike Championship. While in the Castrol 250 Grand Prix Series, the first 3 races have produced 3 different winners. However, the last 2 races have changed the scenario in both classes dramatically. The first of those 2 races, the oldest AMA-sanctioned race in America, the Loudon Classic. The story of the 64th rendition of the Loudon Classic was 2 first-time wins by 2 front-running teams. The first of those 2 wins came in the Castrol 250 Grand Prix Final. The 32-lap race was an example of just how quickly the Loudon track can stand up and bite you. Example, number 4 Randy Renfro had worked his way to the front when, without warning, down he goes. His body and bike tumble through oncoming traffic. Amazingly, everyone avoided the fallen rider and his bike. Another look in slow-mo shows just how lucky the riders following Renfro were not to get involved. Renfro himself suffered no serious injury. With Renfro out of the way, the race boiled down to a battle between number 97, England's Alan Carter, and number 80, John Kosinski. But Carter, too, fell victim to the Loudon track, sliding out of contention late in the race. Kosinski then put his Yamaha on cruise control and took his second career pro win and the first for Kenny Roberts' Team Nordica effort. Kosinski's teammate Cal Rayborn III finished in third. That gave King Kenny's effort their best team finish to date. In the Superbike class, the battle lines have been drawn since the opening race in Daytona. Honda versus Suzuki, with the scorecard reading Honda 3, Suzuki 0. Nevertheless, Schwantz and the Yoshimura Suzuki team rose to the occasion and pulled off the unexpected. Starting off in his heat race, Schwantz, number 34, served notice he was the rider to beat. Then in the 5-lap dash for cash, known as the Camel Challenge, he again disappeared from the pack. And he didn't let up there. In the Superbike final, he dusted the competition and broke Honda's stronghold on the championship. Honda's reigning number 6 settled for second and still retained his standings lead, but the story on this day was Schwantz and Suzuki. The Texan released a lot of built-up emotion at the finish with a look ma no hands, feet on the pegs victory salute. It was his first ever AMA national win and the first national win for the Suzuki GSXR.
Everything's just perfect. The bike worked great, Michelin tires, everything just spot on all weekend, no problems. It just, it's been a long time coming. We've been close the past 2 races and just hadn't been able to quite put it in there. And I think we showed what we can do right here. I'd like to thank everybody from Suzuki, Yoshimura. The guys at Yoshimura did a great job.
Schwantz and Suzuki continued their winning ways the very next weekend at Road America, the longest road racing circuit in the U.S. Although Team Honda's Wayne Rainey won the 5-lap Camel Challenge and took home a cool 10 grand, the race for the championship points belonged to Schwantz. The Suzuki rider took the lead early on and rode away from the field. Only Rainey stayed within sight, but could never challenge. The Schwantz-Suzuki Association is in its 3rd year and is finally paying off. After a lot of hard work and playing second fiddle to Honda, the Yoshimura Suzuki team has arrived with 2 well-deserved and vital wins. For scoring those 2 victories, including his first ever, Suzuki's Kevin Schwantz is our Castrol Rider of the Week. Kevin will receive a custom embroidered racing jacket from Castrol, as well as a commemorative plaque for being named Castrol Rider of the Week. Number 80, John Kosinski, was another consideration for Rider of the Week. He, too, duplicated his Loudon performance to score back-to-back wins. The Oklahoma rider took the lead from the start and led number 99, Cork Ballington, and Richmond, California's Richard Oliver home. Afterwards, Kosinski didn't have time to savor his win. It was off to the airport in Japan for testing. His place on the victory rostrum was taken by a female volunteer whose prowess with a champagne bottle would have made Kosinski proud. Reporting for MotoWorld, this is Dennis Torres.
And now, Nissan presents the Nissan Scoreboard, a statistical look at the world of motorcycle racing.
The standings in Superbike road racing have tightened up thanks to back-to-back wins by Suzuki's Kevin Schwantz. What was once a rainy runaway is now shaping up to be a classic confrontation. In the Castrol 250 GP ranks, John Kosinski's back-to-back wins have given him the lead in the standings. It'll be interesting to see if young Kosinski can hold off the veteran and 4-time world champ Cork Ballington. In Pro Twins competition, an old phase with a new team has the lead in the standings. Veteran racer Doug Bronick. The Georgia rider and his exotic Moto Guzzi have a healthy lead over their fellow competitors.
When MotoWorld continues, we'll travel to San Antonio, Texas for the opening round of the 500cc Motocross Series, and we'll take a historical look back at one of the best ever in motocross, Mark the Bomber Barnett. Cross crowns to earn the unofficial title, Grand National Champion. Last year, Rick Johnson duplicated Ward's feat. So far, in 1987, both Ward and Johnson have claimed one title. The tiebreaker will be the 500cc Outdoor Championship. If there was any doubt in anyone's mind that the 500cc Championship Series would be a Johnson-Ward shootout, it was erased in Moto number 1 of the opening event. Team Honda's Rick Johnson was the early leader, but was quickly displaced by Kawasaki's number 3, Jeff Ward. No one else was in contention. Californian Billy Frank wanted to be, but he tried a little too hard. For Ward, the 500cc title carries special significance. He's already won championships in 125 and 250 outdoor classes and in Supercross.
By winning the 500s, Ward would become the first rider in history to win all 4 classes. At the end of the moto, Ward was right on track. The newly crowned Supercross champ took the checkered flag and round 1 of the showdown. The start of moto number 2 was a carbon copy of moto number 1. Johnson got the whole shot with Ward right behind. This time, however, Johnson, number 2, held on to the lead. The El Cajon native, who 1 week earlier had wrapped up his 3rd 250 national championship, was not about to be denied. By splitting moto wins and second-place finishes, Ward and Johnson left Texas in a tie for the series lead. Johnson, though, by turning in the best performance in the second moto, was declared the overall winner for the day. That was good for bragging rights and, to the delight of the spectators on hand, the privilege of turning winner's circle into a wet T-shirt contest.
Another rider who has experienced his share of winner's circle shenanigans was the now retired Mark the Bomber Barnett. This week's Fram Autolite Flashback recalls the last major win by this champion of the sport. Dave Bowman has the story.
Mark Barnett's 7 seasons with Team Suzuki earned the former amateur national champion a legion of loyal fans and the nickname the Bomber for the way he exploded into action on the track. During those 7 seasons, 1978 through 1984, the Illinois native collected 40 national victories on his way to 3 championship titles in the 125cc motocross ranks and 1 supercross title. After a winless 1984 season, the 24-year-old Barnett traded in the blue and gold riding gear for the lime green of Team Kawasaki. The highlight of the 1985 season, Barnett's last in competition, came on February the 23rd, nearly 8 years after his first victory. The scene was Atlanta, Georgia's Fulton County Stadium. The event, the Atlanta Supercross. Barnett had won the race in 1981 and 83. The time was right for the 1985 running to be added to that total. 2 12-lap motos made up the feature race, thus putting a premium on consistency to take the overall win. The capacity crowd on hand saw Barnett, number 9, pressure his way into second midway through Moto 1, while number 6, Ron Lachine, was running away to the Moto win. Barnett's calculated riding style earned him the role of a crowd favorite. In the second moto, Barnett again found himself watching the battle for the lead from 3rd position. With 4 laps to go, the Bomber moved into second. Riding cautiously to ensure second place in the overall win nearly cost Barnett the race. Teammate Jeff Ward, number 2, pressured Barnett right to the finish, looking for a way around and a chance to steal the victory. Mark Barnett's 41st career win was also his last. Barnett retired at the end of the season, but his legacy will go on forever. Reporting for Moto World, this is Dave Bowman.
Mark the Bomber Barnett, definitely one of the best that ever raced. And with that,
Moto World has been brought to you by Coors, the beer with a difference worth tasting. Coors is the one. Honda motorcycles and all-terrain vehicles. Honda, follow the leader. Nissan, who invites you to test drive a hot new Nissan car or truck and see why Nissan makes you feel like driving. Fram Autolite, the makers of Fram oil filters and Autolite spark plugs. Suzuki motorcycles for the track, trail, or street. Ride on, Suzuki. And by Castrol, motor oil engineered for today's smaller, higher revving engines. Executive producer of Moto World is Lou Seals. Moto World is a production of Seals Communications Corporation.
They call him Big Daddy.